For 60 years, one material has run the entire digital world. Every phone, every laptop, every AI data center, all of it built on silicon. But right now, in labs in Shanghai, Boston, and Eindhoven, silicon is running into a wall it cannot climb over. Electrons are tunneling straight through barriers they are not supposed to cross. Chips are getting so hot that engineers have hit what they call the thermal wall. And the machines needed to keep shrinking silicon now cost more than $350 million each. So here is the question nobody in the West is asking loudly enough. What happens when silicon simply cannot get smaller? In April of 2025, a university lab in Shanghai answered that question with a working processor that does not use silicon channels at all. A few months later, Huawei joined the same project, and by the time you finish this video, you will understand why a research breakthrough out of Nanjing might matter more to the future of computing than anything happening in Taiwan right now. Before we get to what replaces silicon, you need to understand why silicon, the most successful material in industrial history, is suddenly in trouble. Silicon won because of three things. It has a band gap of about 1.1 electron volts, which is the sweet spot between conducting electricity well and not leaking power when it is switched off. It naturally grows a clean oxide layer on its surface, which made the entire transistor manufacturing process possible. And it is cheap, making up roughly 28% of the Earth's crust. Combine that with 6 decades of refinement, and you get an industry capable of stamping out wafers with yields above 99%. But here is the problem. As engineers shrink transistor gates down toward 2 nanometers, physics starts fighting back. When the barrier inside a transistor gets thinner than about 1 nanometer, electrons stop behaving like particles and start behaving like waves. They simply tunnel through the barrier that is supposed to stop them. The result is a chip that leaks power even when it is sitting idle, the same way a leaky tap keeps dripping even when it is closed. Then there is heat. Every time a transistor switches, it dissipates energy, and that energy scales with the square of the voltage. Engineers cannot lower that voltage much further without losing reliability, which means clock speeds have essentially capped out around 5 GHz. Industry insiders call this the thermal wall, and it has been sitting there for almost 2 decades. And then there is the price tag. To pattern features below 2 nanometers, foundries now need high-NA, extreme ultraviolet lithography machines from ASML. Each one costs over $350 million, and a single leading-edge fab now costs upward of $20 billion to build. Moore's law used to mean cheaper transistors every year. Now it increasingly means more expensive ones. Layer artificial intelligence on top of all this, and the pressure becomes impossible to ignore. Training a trillion-parameter model requires racks of processors that strain entire regional power grids. The industry is not just looking for a faster chip anymore, it is looking for a fundamentally more efficient one. So if silicon is hitting a wall, what is actually waiting on the other side of it? The answer is not one single material. It is a race between at least 6 of them, and the most surprising frontrunner is something only 1 atom thick. The leading challenger to silicon right now is a class of materials called two-dimensional semiconductors, and the most promising one is called molybdenum disulfide, often written as MOS2. Picture a single sheet of molybdenum atoms sandwiched between 2 layers of sulfur atoms, just 0.65 nanometers thick. Because the layers stick together with weak van der Waals forces instead of messy chemical bonds, they can be peeled into perfectly flat, atomically thin sheets. Here is why that matters. A single layer of MOS2 has a direct band gap of about 1.8 electron volts, wider than silicon's. And because the channel is so thin, the gate electrode can control it with almost no leakage. That solves the exact tunneling problem silicon is running into. This is not theoretical anymore. In April of 2025, researchers at Fudan University in Shanghai built something called the Wuji processor, a 32-bit RISC-V chip built entirely from monolayer MOS2 transistors, nearly 6,000 of them, sitting on a sapphire wafer instead of silicon. It ran at a clock speed of 10 MHz, sipping just 35 microwatts of power, with a wafer-level transistor yield above 99%. Then it escalated. In May of 2026, Nanjing University, Suzhou Laboratory, and Huawei Technologies jointly unveiled a follow-up called the Magic 1000, the world's first parallel two-dimensional processor. It packed over 1,000 transistors into a 4-bit architecture capable of executing 8 instructions at once, achieving a transistor density of roughly 100,000 per square centimeter using an industrial fabrication process they call interconnect first. Think about what that means strategically. China has been cut off from the most advanced high-NA EUV lithography machines from ASML. So instead of fighting that restriction head-on, Chinese labs appear to be routing around it entirely, building processors out of a material that does not require the most extreme manufacturing tools in the first place. But the West is not standing still. Just 1 month later, in June of 2026, IMEC, ASML, and TSMC jointly demonstrated their own 300mm wafer flow for two-dimensional transistors, fabricating both N-type and P-type devices on the same silicon wafer at a 50nm contacted poly pitch. IMEC's public roadmap now targets commercial two-dimensional transistors by 2033, with full monolithic three-dimensional chip stacking by 2041. So this is not a one-country story. It is a global sprint. And right now, the labs in China are arguably ahead on working silicon-free prototypes, while the West is ahead on industrial-scale integration tools. Two-dimensional materials solve the leakage problem, but there is a second contender attacking the heat problem from a completely different angle, and it comes from a material you have probably heard of in a pencil. Carbon nanotubes are rolled-up sheets of graphene, and when used as a transistor channel, they support near-ballistic electron transport, meaning electrons move through with very little resistance. On paper, this could deliver roughly a 10 times improvement in energy efficiency compared to silicon. The problem held this technology back for nearly 2 decades. When you chemically grow carbon nanotubes, you get a mix of semiconducting tubes and metallic tubes. The metallic ones cannot be switched off, which means they short-circuit the whole chip. Researchers at MIT, led by Professor Max Schulecker, solved this with 2 clever fixes. First, a process called rinse, which mechanically strips out the metallic tubes by coating the wafer in a polymer and peeling them away, cutting defect density by more than 99%. Second, a design method called DREAM, which arranges the logic gates so the chip still works correctly even if a few metallic tubes slip through, lowering the required purity bar from a nearly impossible 100% down to a reachable 99.99%. This has already moved past the lab. MIT partnered with Skywater Technology and Analog Devices to fabricate carbon nanotube transistors on real 150mm silicon wafers using existing commercial tools. And under a DARPA program, they built a 16-bit RISC-V processor containing over 14,000 carbon nanotube transistors. Because this fabrication happens below 400 degrees Celsius, these transistor layers can be stacked directly on top of memory without melting the silicon underneath, something silicon transistors simply cannot do to each other. Two-dimensional materials and carbon nanotubes are fighting for the logic chip of the future. But there is another battle already won, quietly inside your phone charger and your electric car. While MOS2 and carbon nanotubes are still proving themselves, 2 materials have already taken real market share away from silicon: silicon carbide and gallium nitride. Both are wide bandgap semiconductors, meaning they can survive much higher voltages and temperatures before breaking down. In 2025, silicon and germanium still held 63.5% of the power semiconductor market. But silicon carbide had already claimed 21.4% and gallium nitride another 15.1%. Tesla put silicon carbide modules into its Model 3 drivetrain years ago, and BYD, Hyundai, and Porsche have followed. Anker's fastest phone chargers now run on gallium nitride, packing far more power into a fraction of the size, because the inductors inside can shrink to 1/4 of their old footprint. Behind those two sits an even more extreme contender, gallium oxide, with a theoretical breakdown field nearly double that of silicon carbide. It can be grown straight from a molten liquid, similar to how silicon ingots are made today, which is a major manufacturing advantage. Its weakness is heat dissipation, since it conducts heat far worse than silicon does. So researchers are now bonding thin gallium oxide layers onto diamond substrates to pull that heat away. And speaking of diamond, synthetic diamond sits at the very extreme end of this list. It has the highest thermal conductivity of any known solid, paired with an enormous breakdown field. Element 6, a division of De Beers, partnered with Japan's Orbre in 2024 to scale wafer-sized diamond, and in September of that year was selected for a DARPA program building ultra-wide bandgap chips for military hardware. The catch is cost. Growing single-crystal diamond is slow, and doping it remains genuinely difficult. Every material we have covered so far still moves information using electrons. But there is one more approach that throws electrons out almost entirely, and it might be the most disruptive one on this list. Silicon photonics moves data using light instead of electricity. Photons do not generate resistive heat, and they can carry multiple data streams down a single waveguide simultaneously using a trick called dense wavelength division multiplexing. The money flowing into this space tells you how seriously the industry is taking it. In December of 2025, Marvell acquired the photonic startup Celestial AI in a deal worth roughly $3.25 billion, securing its disaggregated memory architecture. 3 months later, in March of 2026, Lightmatter, working with Qualcomm, demonstrated a co-packaged optics chiplet hitting 1.6 terabits per second per fiber, a bandwidth density up to 10 times higher than existing electronic interconnects. Lightmatter itself has raised over $850 million at this point, building toward optical processors that can perform the matrix math behind deep learning using nothing but interfering beams of light. So here is the real picture. Silicon is not dying tomorrow. It is being layered with new materials, the same way steel did not disappear when concrete and carbon fiber arrived. But the country that masters two-dimensional semiconductors first will not just build a faster phone chip. It will build the data centers that train the next generation of AI without needing the exact lithography machines the West has restricted. If you want to understand how the chip war between the US and China is actually playing out behind the headlines, that is exactly what I break down on this channel every week. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.